Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Shay, aka Chaplain G, coming back at y'all with another word of encouragement for today. So check this out. I want to come to you not necessarily with a word of encouragement, but it's kind of more of a word of like a challenge. It's not super challenging. I just want to ask you a question, right? What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of person that is primarily focused on their own self-achievement and putting yourself up as far as you can go? Like by any means necessary, you want to succeed kind of person? Or do you want to be the kind of person that can see the plight of others, is willing to put and consider others as more valuable than themselves? It's not like a judgment question per se, though I think there are some fallbacks with living a life that's just primarily focused on yourself. Really, everybody has to come to that own conclusion. So that's the question of what kind of person do you want to be? And then there's the question of, are you living your life that way? Are you living your life where you say that you're working for the benefit of others, but as people look at your life, you're really just only about yourself? Or do you put your money where your mouth is and you do consider others as more valuable than yourself? That's the question, right? And the reason why I'm asking that, I was reading this Bible passage, and some of you may know the story, though may never heard it in context. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. And, you know, we got Good Samaritan laws, and you might have heard that term of people, when somebody helps somebody and they don't ask anything in return, that maybe they call them a Good Samaritan. So the term is out there, but I don't know if people have actually heard the story. So I just wanted to come and read it in context, and then allow that posed question to kind of ruminate around your brain a little bit, right? So, parable of the Good Samaritan. You can go and read this for yourself. It's in Luke chapter 10, starting at verse 25. Check this out. This is Jesus. It says, "And behold, a lawyer stood up and put him," Jesus, "to the test, saying, 'Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?' Jesus said to him, 'What's written in the law? How do you read it?' And the man answered, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself.' And Jesus said to him, 'Man, you've answered correctly. Good job, buddy. Go do this and you'll live.'" Check this out. This is where the story takes a twist. It says, "But he," that's the lawyer, "desiring to justify himself, says to Jesus, 'And who is my neighbor?'" So two things I hear when I hear that. One, I'm so glad that Jesus is different than me, because if this dude had said this to me, like as I'm out here teaching, I'm trying to do my thing, and he pops off some smart remark like, "Well, who's my neighbor?" It's like when little kids ask the why question after you done already said what you said, right? Says he's trying to justify himself. It's the second thing. He says he's trying to justify himself. So this dude probably already had in his mind, it says he's a lawyer, and that's not like a trial lawyer or anything like that. That's like he's an expert in the law. Like he's an expert in the Torah. So he knows what he's talking about. He's read the thing through. He probably has a good portion of it memorized, because that's the level of dedication that they would have to have during that time. And you know, he's got all his commentaries from learned Jewish minds and all this other kind of stuff, right? But he probably also had this thing inside of him where, in order for him to get to the top of where he was, he probably stepped on a lot of backs. And he probably had some Jewish nationalism that he was struggling with. He probably had some exclusivity where like he was a lawyer, so he probably has some bank. So he's probably looking at all the poor people in the crowd, and he just wanted to kind of separate himself from them. The Jewish nationalism thing, like they hated certain other people groups, as you'll see later in the story. They hated certain other people groups that were around them, and they didn't want to intermix with them or anything like that. He probably had a bunch of stuff going on. So as he's asking, who's my neighbor, this is a question where he's like, who can I dislike though? Who can I exclude from loving? Because the law says to love your neighbor as yourself. Who can I exclude from loving? And peep game, we got this sometimes. We got this sometimes where we use race, or we'll use social economic statuses, or we'll use certain political ideologies to separate ourselves from people who we don't like. Like, I just read this news article, it's up on my screen right now, where Jimmy Kimmel talking about how people he don't like, he called them fellow sewer dwellers. Man, that's hate. That's all that is. And all of us do this. All of us turn our nose up at other people. Maybe they're living a lifestyle that you don't like. Maybe they down on 4th Street pimping out, and you don't like that. And so you turn your nose up when they walk by. But do you want to be the kind of person that looks at other people and says, ew, yucky? Check out how Jesus answers the question. The dude says, who's my neighbor? Jesus replied, and he launches into the story of the Good Samaritan. He says, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him, and departing, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, the man that got beat up, he passed by on the other side. So he sees the man laying dead in the street. He get on the other side of the street. So likewise, a Levite. So the priest was up. You know, he's the minister of all the sacraments in the temple. The Levite was kind of like a very pious and dedicated to God kind of man. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, if you know much about the relationship between Israelites and Samaritans, it was, think like Crips and Bloods times 10, or Democrats and Republicans times 1,000. They just got rivalry. They got beef. They don't intermix. Matter of fact, they don't even, like, Jews wouldn't even walk through a Samaritan part of town. They would take the long way around, so they didn't have to walk on the same street. This is beef. Forget East Coast, West Coast. Forget Biggie and Pac. These jokers got beef, right? It says, but a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where this Israelite dude was laying half dead in the street. And when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine, then set him on his own animal, on the Samaritan's animal, and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him. Whatever more you spend, I will repay when I come back. So however long this dude needs to recover, I'll carry the tab. Jesus says, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, the one that showed him mercy. And Jesus said, you go and do likewise. Jesus is essentially saying, I don't care about your racism. I don't care about your social economic status. All that means nothing. Love trumps all that. Put all that crap aside for the sake of loving your neighbor. That's what it means to live a good and righteous life. I think a lot of the reasons why we have stuff like school shootings and argument over the Second Amendment, and why we got people not respecting each other. We got all this stuff because people, they do not want to love their neighbor. And we ask that proverbial question, but who's my neighbor? Who am I just supposed to love as if I'm loving myself? We pamper ourselves. We feed ourselves. If we're cold, we put clothes on ourselves. Jesus says, love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as if you're loving yourself. we got some work to do. We can't get caught up in selfish living. We can't get caught up in this side versus that side, this political party versus that political party, that religion versus this religion, this flavor of religion versus this denomination. We don't have time for that. It says, love your neighbor. Jesus made the comparison of two hated enemies and said that is the picture of what neighborly love and affection looks like. Because we're selfish by nature, this is a challenge for us. And Jesus knew it was a challenge. He's not oblivious to that. It's why he came in the flesh to die for our sins, to not to rid us of this thing, but to expose it so we can cry out to him and ask for help. And all this stuff, we were racking up debt against God. And Jesus said, I don't want you racking up debt against God. I want to come and pay that debt so that you could live a life that's free, so that you could just love people and not have to worry about stupid stuff that don't really matter in eternity. So that's my encouragement for y'all, and really ponder it if I can. I know I went long, so I apologize. What kind of person do you want to be as you live this life? And I would encourage you, don't live a life of selfishness. Don't live a life that's defined by how you're different from other people and continue to separate yourself from people. Don't continue to live a life like that. Free yourself up from those bondages and live a life that's free. I hope that resonates. I hope somebody can hear that and receive it. Whether you agree or disagree, hit me up. We can talk about it. Love y'all. Hope y'all doing well. Please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, man, grace and peace.